I think I'm a craftsman, continuing a tradition, and I hope I'm providing something that people need, that I'm not just indulging myself.
Sometimes I think of ourselves as kind of like the old minstrels, you know, carrying a little bit of news, or at least presenting a bit of news or information in a different way.
In this programme, we're going to find out a little about composers' attitudes towards their audiences. We're also going to find out what audiences expect from the music and how they react to it. We decided to look at two quite different musical occasions. One is a rock concert at the Roundhouse in London, the other a concert at the Aldborough Festival in Suffolk. We'll be talking to two of the composers involved in them. Both work using completely different musical language, and both present their work through apparently different social situations. As a composer myself, I won't pretend that you'll be able to get a definitive picture of what a composer's attitude towards his audience might or should be, since there are likely to be as many different attitudes as there are composers. Still, I hope the programme will help to provide some framework within which to consider the problem. We've come first to Snape in Suffolk, to a building called the Maltings. The occasion is the Aldborough Festival. Founded in 1948 as a home for the nomadic English opera group, the festival has since grown to become one of the major occasions of the English musical calendar. This year, well over 10,000 people have come to listen to a wide variety of classical and contemporary music. Today, the composer Richard Rodney Bennett is rehearsing his arrangement of a song by George Gershwin with the King's Singers.
The world is so full of a number of things, I'm sure we could all be as happy as kings. Make it all a big party, fill the cup and come with us and drink hearty. When you realize that this life is so short, the wise thing to do is to be a good sport. Why take time for sorrow? If your day is blue, I'm telling you, give in, for it's a great little world we live in. Laughter is something everyone should be after. Don't be shy, why oh why stay on the shelf? Clear the stage, act your age, just be yourself. So give in, for it's a great little world we live in today. It makes life so dull if you try to be good, and frankly I don't think I would if I could. It's a nice sensation if you just give way to temptation. When conscience may tell you you ought to be strong, that water's all right and that whiskey's all wrong. Why take admiration? But if you should need a drink, give in, for it's a dry little world we live in. Water's a very suitable drink for daughters. People may sometimes say you must be firm. That's all rot, have a spot, don't be a worm. So give in, for it's a dry little world we live in. A dry little world. Give in, for it's a dry little world we live in today.
Richard Rodney Bennett is an English composer who has distinguished himself in a variety of musical activities. He's written music for films and ballet, as well as a large number of compositions for concert performance. He talked to me after the rehearsal, and I asked him first if he had any particular audience in mind when he was writing a piece.
No, I'm more concerned with the people who are going to perform it. I don't think one can start by thinking of the audience. I think first of all you've got to please yourself. You've got to write for yourself and for the players. Whenever I write music, I'm very concerned that it should be useful, that people are going to need it. I don't want to write pieces that are just going to be played once and then never needed again. I want to write music that players will enjoy and hopefully that the audience will enjoy. But if I started worrying about whether everybody in the world is going to love this piece, I wouldn't be able to write at all.
But in performances, can you actually feel in some way how the audience is reacting?
I think so. I think it would be the same as doing a play in an empty theatre. I mean, it's not the laughter and the applause, but there's a sort of atmosphere that you get when people are watching a play or a ballet or whatever, which is essential to that piece. And it doesn't really exist until it's seen by people. When I'm writing music, I often play it to maybe a couple of friends, just to try and get something back. And that's the first stage. And then later on you get to an audience. I want people to like the music, but I can't. That's not what I start from.
Have you ever changed a piece after its first performance because you felt that the audience...
Yeah, I felt people were getting bored, and that they weren't, all the ideas weren't expressed sort of in the right proportions. That's the thing you can't feel. You can't feel a time sense of whether you're stating things to too great a length or too short, too compressed, until people see it. And I have, particularly with stage pieces, cut a lot because I thought the audience were getting fed up with it.
In rock music, for example, there's no problem for the listener to understand the idiom. But in the music we write, there is the problem that the musical language isn't yet too familiar to the audience.
Yeah.
Does this disturb you at all?
Yes, it does. And I'm very conscious of trying to make my ideas as clear as possible and as unpretentious as possible. And I'll often revise things at my desk because I think I've got too preoccupied with my own problems and not concerned enough with how it's actually going to sound to somebody who comes to it fresh. I'll simplify things and clarify things in order to make it comprehensible. I wouldn't really agree that in rock music there's no problem with the language. I think some rock music is very complex and difficult, but people can assimilate it on a very simple level as sort of noise.
As noise, and
Yeah.
that the harmonies used aren't too advanced.
Not as a rule, no. But I'm terribly conscious of not wanting to write for a specialised audience. I hate concerts of contemporary music, and I hate contemporary music audiences. I want to write for, say, the people who would come to this hall, the Maltings, just to go to a concert. I don't want to write for people who are, so to speak, in the know. I want to do something which is maybe harder, which is to persuade people who are unfamiliar with the language I use that this is a valid language.
Rock or jazz musicians have an opportunity to change their music during its course.
Yeah.
Now, once we've written a piece, it's down on paper, and it's usually the same every time. Does this worry you at all?
Not really. I mean, no, I don't think so. But I am very conscious of the fact that a composer is a rather solitary being, and for this reason I love to play. I play the piano quite a lot, all kinds of music, because I need that direct contact with an audience, because I am aware that once I've finished a piece, I have absolutely no further part in it, that it's fixed. It's like a painting, it's fixed for all time. And this is kind of sad that in fact one can't change the piece according to the people you're working to.
Would you think that your involvement with jazz is to some extent your way of being able to change the music as it goes along, which can't come out in your composition, which has to remain the same once it's down on paper?
It may be, but I don't like writing jazz. I only like playing it. I only like taking existing material, such as Gershwin or whatever it is. I learnt to play jazz when I was quite a small boy at school because I had a very bad time from the other kids because I was writing music, which they didn't understand at all. And I found that if I could play tunes that they knew and liked, it was a sort of defense mechanism, but it's always been my hobby and a great pleasure, and I couldn't exist without playing jazz.
What do you find the most interesting stage of composition?
I think the most exciting stage is when you're absolutely wrapped up in a piece. So it's like an affair, it's like a love affair, it's something that wraps you round. I think the hardest thing is starting with a vision of what you want to do and then actually finding a technique to express it. That's agony. I think starting a piece is agony. But the marvellous thing is when you're right in the middle of it, you know, you're making a landscape and you're wandering about in it. That's terrific.
Meanwhile, the audience was arriving under a sudden downpour of rain. The performance was sold out. Featuring the King's Singers, it included works by Jacobi and Dvorak, as well as by Richard Rodney Bennett. Can I ask if you've come more for the pieces of music on this programme or the group performing in the programme?
I come for the group, because I think they're so professional and so good. I come for the music too.
They are doing a contemporary piece tonight by Richard Rodney Bennett. Have you any thoughts about contemporary music?
I enjoy his very much. I think he's always interesting, and I think he lets you down lightly.
We were very lucky. We were in London at the Festival Hall a little while ago and heard his piece for brass quintet, which was really superb. This was really quite striking. Again, it's much easier, you know, if you see modern music performed first, rather than just hearing it, let's say on a record or on the radio, because you can see people doing it. You see what they have to do to make the sound, and it adds a new dimension, even though it might be a little bit foreign to start off with. And it's much more fun then.
I try and understand them, and I understand them very much better if they tell people a little bit of what they are trying to compose and for us to understand.
I like to have a chance to hear, if it's contemporary music, to hear it more than once. I always enjoy the programs where you have something played and then an interval or something else played, and then you get a chance to hear it again. Always get much more out of it the second time.
This was a commission for the King's Singers, who are a marvellous group. The piece is the setting of a text which I've had around for about 15 years. It's a 17th century translation from Ovid about visiting the god of sleep in his domain. It's an incredible text. It's so amazing. That's, I think, what stopped me setting it for so many years. I was kind of awestruck by this imagery.
The question that comes up in our minds, we were talking about this in the interval, is how on earth do you write this sort of stuff? I don't know. Space, time, size, is it written the normal way? I don't know. And a lot of us who are neophytes in this could really benefit from a little more explanation.
After the peace and quiet of Snape, the roundhouse in London's Chalk Farm comes as a bit of a contrast. This converted engine shed has provided a home for many different kinds of entertainment since Arnold Wesker launched it with Centre 42. For many young people, it has become almost a cultural mecca. During the week, the Roundhouse has plays, ballets and concerts, some avant-garde, some classical. And on many Sundays, the Roundhouse has concerts of rock music. Today, the audience has come to see a continuous performance through the afternoon and evening by a number of groups. The last group to play will be the Edgar Broughton Band. One member of the audience waiting outside told me why he'd come.
So the band is something completely different than what I've heard before, and I've come along to listen to them for the first time. I've got a couple of their records, and I hope it's going to be a good performance. They're completely different. The whole style of music is something that's different than anybody else that I've heard. It's sort of living, and it grows on you. The more you hear it, the more you get into it.
Are you expecting to get a lot more from the live performance than you have previously from their records?
Oh yeah, because you've got the whole atmosphere around you. You're sort of sitting in the middle of it, and you react the way the people react around you. We're only sitting listening to a stereo. It's sort of impassive. The only way you can get anything really is from a live performance of a group.
Let's see those butterflies! Family-like and nostalgia! Come on! Let's see those butterflies! Come on! Up there! Up there! Woo! I want you all to do this with us now! Together!
When you're actually writing a song, how much do you have its future audience in your mind?
Sometimes we do write songs, like we wrote a song once called Freedom, which was a song about a situation on the campuses in America, and to a lesser extent in England too, in Britain too. And that was obviously written with the idea of involving the audience so that they would listen to the words more than perhaps dance around or whatever. But a lot of the time songs just come in the form of tunes or words, or sometimes both together, with no particular object in mind, other than when we finished it, it just seems to fit in with the general set of material, so we perform it.
So you don't find any preference in importance between the words and the music?
No, not really. In one way, I think the music is essential to people that are kind of orientated to dancing to or listening to music. Thereby they might get to listen to the words and draw some conclusions from the words, you know, whatever they might be.
You're talking earlier about your song Freedom. Do you think it would have been as effective to have stood up and made a speech about the same subject, or is the music very important and does it get the message across to more people?
I think so, yeah. I suppose some people, a good poet, a good orator, I suppose can put as much dynamics and light and shade into his words as we could with words and music. In fact, there is one song we used to do called The Refugee, which was basically a poem with a bass drum, just a bass drum beating. But generally, I think that for us, it's much easier to perform with music, and we're much more likely to get people to listen to what we have to say lyrically if there's music accompanying it.
How important are live appearances for you? Because I know you depend a great deal on audience reaction and participation. can you feel the way an audience is accepting the material?
Yes, yeah, and also sometimes they can change how we feel. I mean, I was talking to you earlier about light and dark. I mean, sometimes we come upon a darker audience, I suppose, in terms of good, what one might call good vibrations or bad vibrations. Sometimes the whole audience might perhaps be influenced by a minority within it, and then they therefore influence the band.
What do you think is your function as a musician in society?
We have had lots of arguments in the past with different people who, I mean, some people claim that our first consideration should be that to entertain. We should try to entertain first and foremost. Well, although I think we should entertain, I don't think it really matters what the priorities are or what one thinks of as the first thing to try to achieve. I think it should be a sort of hot pot of all the ingredients that we can possibly put in. As I said, the thing has changed now. When we first, at one time, like a few years ago, people used to just get up and play 1, 2, 3 and they were away. Now, I mean, we use lighting and sort of various effects, and the thing is becoming more theatrical. We do a little mime sequence, which I suppose that's beginning to explore the language of the body and movement, as well as, unlike the classical performer, also we can make our own announcements. We can stop if we like and talk about something for a minute or two. So there are lots of little parts of any performance which have to be learnt anyways. Lots of crafts in presenting one performance.
In the name of your loving mother and father. All together, come on!